your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Sorry I'm late, Sevi. Had to fetch my lucky putter.
No worries, let's go. We're teeing off in an hour.
Great. We're taking your car.
Can't. It's already taken.
What do you mean taken? It was right here when I left a few minutes ago.
I sold it to We Buy Cars and made a whole lot of green.
Birdie told me that's the best way to sell your car.
Not only the best way, it's the fair way. Kom ons vat die pad.
Don't be doof, be savvy. We Buy Cars, geared for a fast sale, geared for you.
As we celebrate 90 years of existence, SAFM takes you back to the voices that shaped a nation.
Berea, the home of the four bespectacled Tisson brothers, all of whom work or have worked on the English service, particularly Audio Mix and Radio Today. Watch how the night proceeds towards dawn.
And
I need a lot of consoling when I started the early program. People couldn't believe that John O'Donnell and B. Reid were chosen for the early morning program, because if ever two announcers used to want to swap a morning shift for an afternoon shift, John and I would do it.
90 years of trusted voices. This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, I'm Ashraf Garda. Thank you for joining us. 3 hours of the National Pulse. As per yesterday and today, huge interest in the ad hoc committee, where you got the voice of Paul O'Sullivan, the investigator, and in this case here, there's a Q&A between him and Julius Malema. So let's cross right to Parliament's ad hoc committee.
You will see that I've taken the same posture with everyone. You are talking about former General Patlani. He's still coming to us. We are not done with him. When his turn comes, we'll attend to him. You are saying you are a certified fraud examiner.
Mm-hmm.
Who certified you?
The Association of Certified Fraud Examiners.
So, association where, here or in the USA?
It's a US, it's based in Austin in Texas.
So they give you a certificate which you perhaps attached here, which we can make reference to confirm that you are a certified fraud examiner.
Well, if you look at page 73,
yeah.
and if you look at page 67.
67.
So page 67 says Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, South Africa, chapter number 91. ACFESA, Certified Fraud Examiner of the Year, 2014, was awarded to Paul O'Sullivan for his contribution to the fight against fraud and white-collar crime. And if you look at the page 73, it says again, Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, South Africa chapter, ACFE, hereby awards Paul O'Sullivan with the Certified Fraud Examiner of the Year Award 2022, with all rights and privileges under the bylaws of the ACFE-SA chapter.
So what requirements must one have to be admitted into doing this type of qualification?
I'd have to go on the website and have a look because, but you have to take exams, you have to undergo quite a lot of training. Yeah.
So now what I want to understand is that were you expected to have some pre-qualifications before you entered this?
I think so, yeah. You'd have to go on the website and have a look at what the requirements are.
The issue of security clearance, you said to me at that time when you were head of aviation security, the issue of security clearance was not a requirement.
That's correct.
No, but when we look at the necessary act that was applying at the time, that was a requirement.
It became a requirement in 2003.
That was after you left?
No, before I left.
Uh-huh.
It was made a requirement in 2003.
And then when they found you without having the security clearance, what happened at the national key point?
Then I could no longer be the national key point officer, and I could no longer be sitting on the National Aviation Security Committee.
Have you ever been found guilty of GBV?
What's GBV?
Gender-based violence?
Yes, in 1999, I paid a 500 Rand admission of guilt fine for an alleged assault. And in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have paid the fine, but my lawyer at the time advised me that either there would be a trial or I could just pay the fine and it wouldn't be a criminal record. Unfortunately, I paid the fine. It was made a criminal record, and then it was subsequently, what do they call it? Expunged from the record.
Do you still have your firearm license?
Yes, I do.
Is it not the requirement that when you are found guilty of such a thing, they should withdraw your firearm license?
So there wasn't a trial and I wasn't found guilty. I just paid an admission of guilt fine. It's like if you're driving at 150 kilometers an hour and the speed limit is 120, you get a ticket in the post, and you can either go to court and challenge it, and then you get convicted, and then it will be on your record, or you pay an admission of guilt fine, and then it doesn't appear on your record, although that is now changing, because I think with the new, what do they call it, AARTO Act, even if you pay an admission of guilt fine now, it becomes part of your record. But at that time, it wasn't the case.
Have you ever faced any allegations of sexual misconduct?
No.
There was never an allegation that you were accused of raping an underage girl?
Definitely
who
not.
Was in the Randburg area, who was
absolutely
a close, who was a daughter of a close friend?
Absolutely not. I mean...
And that will mean you have not even tried to pay any bribe to those parents to...
I've never had such allegations made. Nothing of any nature whatsoever.
What is your relationship with McBride?
Robert McBride? I have no relationship with him.
Professionally?
When he was at IPID, yes.
What required you to work with him at IPID, which makes it difficult to work with him when he's outside IPID?
Because I'm not involved with him now. When he was working at IPID, he was the executive director of IPID.
Mm-hmm.
And he was unlawfully suspended, and he was off work for, I think, 10 or 12 months. And during that period, I opened a criminal docket against General Pashlani. And that was in February, I think February the 16th, in 2016. And after I opened that docket, there was no investigation. So for 10 months, there was no investigation by IPID. And because they refused to investigate, I continued gathering evidence myself. But after March, I refused to supply any of that evidence to IPID because they were leaking it to General Pashlani. So at the end of October 2016, the Constitutional Court found that Robert McBride's suspension was unlawful, and he was reinstated. And after he was reinstated, immediately after he was reinstated, I reached out to him and I said, hey, you know, we need to pick this docket up. I opened it 10 months ago and there's been no investigation. And that was my first proper sit down with him to explain what happened on that docket. He then appointed Matthews Sissoko to put a team together. And the head of that
sorry,
team,
Mr. O'Sullivan, there's a request that you speak to the mic.
Oh, sorry. So he put a team together. Let me just move my chair. He put a team together, and the investigation was carried out. And during the process of that investigation, 3 weeks into that investigation, there was a threat to murder myself and to murder Madlanga Commission, who was leading that team. And as a result of those threats to murder myself and Madlanga Commission, we had further meetings, and it was decided that we needed to find out who these threats were coming from or where they were coming from. And they managed to trace the phone to a police official that worked at OR Tambo, but the police official claimed that he lost his phone the day before the threats were made. So it never got anywhere. And I mean, then what happened, so that was in November, towards the end of November 2016, on about between 10 or 12 or 13 of December, we had a braai. It was a year-end braai. And Madlanga Commission was there, Robert McBride was there, Cedric Nkabindi was there. There were two other guys, I can't remember their name, from IPID. And I was there. Some of my staff were there. I think 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 6 of my staff were there. And we had a braai, and it was a year-end braai, and that day I was flying overseas. And 3 days after that braai, General Prince Mokateri, who was then the unlawfully appointed head of DPCI in Gauteng, leaked a media article through a private investigator by the name of Chad Thomas to the media. And the article alleged that a secret meeting took place instead of a braai, and that the purpose of the secret meeting was to discuss overthrowing the government, and that the persons present at the secret meeting, apart from myself and McBride and others, was the DA and AfriForum and a journalist. Of course, the whole thing was fabricated.
See, I'm being very patient, but my time.
But the media made a big meal of it, a massive meal of it. So I then invited General Mokateri to take no, not I. Robert McBride invited General Mokateri to take a polygraph test, and he agreed to take the polygraph test. And I said to Robert McBride, he should also take the polygraph test. So he did take the polygraph test, and after he took the polygraph test, which he passed, and the question was, were you at a meeting where you talked about overthrowing the government? And he passed. And the question for Mokateri would have been, is this case you opened for allegedly overthrowing the government real or not real? And he refused to take the polygraph test. So that was kind of the end of it.
That's fine. And then Naim Kasim, what is your professional relationship with him?
Naim Kasim, if I go back to, trying to remember the year, either 2011 or 2012, I'm trying to remember the year. Naim Kasim was a client. He came to us. He asked us to carry out an investigation in respect of certain events that had taken place with him. He owned an OK Bazaar in Brits. And he alleged that certain people had threatened him and beaten him, and he had the video evidence and stuff like that. So we sat with him, we interviewed him, and we carried out an investigation.
So he was a client?
He was a client, yeah.
Moti will also be a client?
Today.
Moti is your client?
No, the company, there's a, Zunaid Moti owns a group of companies called the Moti Group. And today...
Now I'm talking Zunaid Moti.
Yes, Zunaid Moti is not a client.
It's not your client?
No, but he owns...
You don't work for him?
No, he owns a group of companies, and the group of companies are clients of ours.
How many passports do you have?
4.
Yesterday you said 3.
Yeah, so because my passport was running short of pages, I got a second passport. So I have 2 South African passports, 1 Irish passport and 1 British passport.
No, you did an interview, I can't remember, with you in a book where you said you've got 4 passports.
Yes, I have 4 now as well.
Yeah, South Africa, Ireland, Britain, and then the 4th one?
South Africa.
So you have 2 passports of South Africa?
Yes, because when you want to go to a country, you have to have pages in your passport. If your pages run out, you can't enter a country because you need to have so many blank pages. Also, if you want to get a visa to go somewhere in your passport, you have to leave your passport at an embassy.
No, but those are passport books. Passports means passport.
Yes, I'm talking passport. You have
the one that is full. It doesn't matter if it's full. I just wanted to know, because when I say how many passports do you have, I mean which many countries do you belong to?
3.
3.
Yeah.
South Africa, Britain, Ireland.
Correct.
Only.
Yes.
So you have 3 passports, not 4.
Well, actual
passports
documents,
means
I have 4. I have 2 South African passports, obviously valid.
Thank you so much, honorable members. That time has come to an end. Honorable Matthys. No, I'm not taking. We are pressed for time. I don't want to come and find myself in trouble with the latter speakers. Honorable Matthys.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. O'Sullivan. Have you ever applied for security clearance in any country?
Only in South Africa. In fact, what happened was when I filled in the forms and I handed them in, they said to me, but you've got dual nationality. And I said, yes. They said, then you can't get security clearance.
So did you submit your application, though?
I handed it to, I can't remember the name of the person now, a general. When you hand it, you have to be, when you hand it in, you have to have a sit-down meeting with them, and they go through your forms. And when I sat down, this would have been back in 24, 25 years ago. And when I sat down with him, he said, oh, but hang on a minute. You have dual nationality. And I said, yes. He said, then you can't get security clearance.
So there was no process that followed?
No, it stopped.
Have you sent any messages or communicated with Denayo Mokwele?
Who?
Denayo Mokwele.
I don't know. Who's that person?
You've never sent her any messages. She's the one that has been arrested with General Khumalo for apparently submitting illegal qualifications.
Ah, the brigadier.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you call her a little girl?
No.
Okay.
I requested a meeting with her because we wanted to find out, and she said to me, I'm not prepared to speak to you, I must speak to HR of the police.
And then you didn't say anything, you didn't refer to her as a little girl?
No, in fact, I sent her an email, I think. Can I pull up the email and read it to you?
I don't think it's necessary at the moment. If you're saying you didn't, it's fine, we'll move on. Have you ever been charged in any other countries for... have you ever been charged in any other countries?
No.
So you've got no convictions in any other countries?
None at all.
When you left South Africa now recently, when did you leave?
I can't remember the date, but it was last year.
And then when did you return?
I came in and out. So I went to, I went to the UK, I came back, I went to Australia, and then to Fiji. I came back from Australia, and then I went back to the UK.
Just kind of asking you, when did you come back?
I can't remember the dates.
So we can confirm with Home Affairs?
Yes, you can confirm with Home Affairs.
No problem. Did you provide a security clearance certificate to Parliament? Or you just wrote to us saying that your life was under threat?
I don't understand. Did I?
No, I'm saying, was there a security assessment done? Did you provide a security assessment from a credible institution?
No.
So it was Parliament acted and provided state resources for your security based on your email saying that you have a security, your life is in danger.
What I supplied to Parliament was the evidence.
Oh, what was the evidence?
The I don't have social media, but somebody downloaded it and provided it to me, and I sent that to...
Oh, it was social media, okay.
Yeah, where they were threatening me, and they said that I should be shot or there should be a shootout, and there should be a shootout with me.
And is that, in your experience, should be something that, credible for a government institution based on a social media post?
So,
instead of doing an assessment, because my understanding is that a security assessment can be based on evidence that there may be a threat.
So if you have a single message where a person's threatening you, then I think that would call for a bit more of an investigation. But we're talking about...
Oh, it's 3:30. Here's the news headlines.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the DA in Johannesburg is calling for the city to implement concrete steps to stabilize the water system while infrastructure repairs are underway. Parliament has announced a budget of 7 million rand for this year's State of the Nation address. This is significantly less than last year's budget of 15.5 million rand. And new research has provided further evidence of how noise pollution has negatively affected the behavior of birds across the world. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and a stationary vehicle on the N1 southbound at Brakfontein Road. In KZN, there's an obstruction on the N3 southbound at Carter Ridge Interchange, the right lane's closed, and a stationary vehicle on the N2 northbound at Higginson Highway. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound is slow moving on Plattekloof Hill, and Kloofnek Road outbound slow moving through Tamboerskloof. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, to me, I know there was an exciting Cricket World Cup game that included South Africa earlier on.
Absolutely exciting. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, the Proteas are still in the T20 World Cup after beating Afghanistan in one of the most dramatic matches in the tournament, a game decided by a rare double super over. Batting first, the Proteas posted 187 for 6 after half centuries from Quinton de Kock and Ryan Rickleton. Then Afghanistan also pulled off their highest ever chase in T20 history, but needing 13 runs from the final over with 1 wicket in hand. The Afghans were handed a lifeline through 2 no balls from Kagiso Rabada to end up with a tie. There was no winner after the first super over as South Africa matched Afghanistan's 17-run effort despite losing Deval Brevis, but the Proteas came out on top in the second attempt. In terms of rugby, the Crusaders begin their bid for a second record-extending 14th Super Rugby Pacific title on Friday as the competition celebrates its 30th season with new law changes designed to speed up play. Since the tournament's launch back in 1996, the Crusaders have been its dominant force, and after overcoming an injury-hit 2024, Rob Penny's side stormed back to championship form last year with a rejuvenated forward pack and fresh talent. Now, the season was a historic moment off the field after more than 14 years at Rugby League Park, and the Crusaders will finally move into their new Tekkaha Stadium, hosting their first match there against the New South Wales on the 24th of April. In terms of football, Kaizer Chiefs legend Dr. Khumalo says that a weaker Mamelodi Sundowns is not good for South African football. Sundowns are going through a series of internal strife, having been disposed of at the summit of the Betway Premiership by Orlando Pirates, and they're also in danger of elimination in the CAF Champions League. Now, the Brazilians have been the backbone of Bafana head coach Hugo Bruce's squad for the past few years, and they played a prominent role in the AFCON 2023 bronze medal and the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualification campaign. Now, Khumalo hopes that the Pretoria-based side can overcome its challenges.
Because they make this PSL game, the PSL league, exciting. They produce a lot of players for South Africa, and we can't celebrate when Sundowns are having a problem. I'm praying and hoping that they resolve their problems, because we can't afford to lose Sundowns.
Especially on the continent.
Especially on because remember, I'll tell you one thing, that Sundowns are very important to us. When the draw was made here World Cup, they asked the Mexican coach, what do you think about South Africa? He was talking about South Africa, but he answered by saying, I saw Sundowns playing in the Club World Cup with this and that. You understand what I'm saying? So this is the reason why I'm saying these guys, they've taken the flag, the pride of the nation to another level. Countries, teams respect South African football because of Sundowns and Pirates and all the teams that have played outside the South Africa.
Elsewhere, Tottenham have sacked head coach Thomas Frank after less than 8 months in charge. Now, Frank won just 7 of his 26 league games, and he also lost 11 of them to leave his side only 5 points clear of relegation zone. Spurs are 16th in the Premier League table, 5 points above the drop zone, and have won just twice in their last 17 league games. Finally, in tennis, top seed Taylor Fritz survived a scare in the opening round of the Dallas Open, edging fellow American Marcos Giron in a deciding tiebreak. Fritz sealed the match 6-4, 5-7 and 7-6 using a late surge to close out the contest and advance to the next round. And up next for him is compatriot Brandon Nakashima as he continues his bid for the title. That's it from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Makoti Down Products is a proudly South African family business, started more than 30 years ago with 12 geese and a piece of material. Makoti manufactures duvets, pillows, sleeping bags, and high-quality Egyptian cotton linen. Our Down products are suitable for people with dust mite allergies and come with a lifelong guarantee. And we offer a nationwide cleaning service for all your feather and down products. Visit us at makoti.co.za or call us on 041 992 2395. For quality down, Makoti Down.
Every day, Rand Water's underground pipelines run through servitudes across the country, carrying millions of litres of water to our communities. But when people build too close, it's called encroachment, and it's very dangerous. If a pipeline bursts, it can flood homes, destroy property, and in many cases, people lose their lives. That's why Rand Water marks its servitudes with blue and white beacons, a clear warning to stay clear and safe. When we protect Rand Water's servitudes, we protect our communities too. Rand Water, finding new ways.
Don't pay more than you need to for car insurance. 27-year-old Outsurance client Liam is saving big bucks.
Saving so much every month, around 640 Rand.
That's an amazing 640 Rand saving on Liam's 2020 Ford Ranger. SMS out to 30754. Let's hear how 45-year-old Nivan feels about saving 461 Rand a month on his 2025 VW T-Cross.
Saved me so much money, 461 Rand.
Nice one. And after 3 claim-free years, you get an out bonus.
So much money.
Get a quote now and see how much money Outsurance could save you. SMS out to 30754. If you don't save, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash. You have nothing to lose with Outsurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
BVB's current mission is to stay close to the log leaders and win every match in the second round of the league. Meanwhile, the Carnival Club is eager to reveal their secret plan on match day. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Dortmund versus FSV Mainz on Friday, 13 February at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. The villains are charging toward the summit with victory firmly in their sights.
There a minute arriving Ollie Watkins and he's in there. He's 2-0 to Aston Villa. And it's Ollie Watkins with a much-needed goal.
Yet the Seagulls are counting on the power of 3 points to run away from the danger zone.
Ayari into Costello, brilliantly left Gross! A true Albion legend back on the score sheet in blue and white.
This is the Premier League. Catch Aston Villa versus Brighton and Hove Albion this Wednesday, 11 February at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC 3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Right, South Africa's leading fuel company, Engen, part of the Vivo Energy Group, will be at the Investing in African Mining Indaba, showcasing how partnership and technology are reshaping modern mining. From secure fuel and lubricant supply to AI-enabled equipment monitoring and predictive maintenance, Engen and Vivo Energy are helping mining operations improve uptime, manage costs, and build long-term resilience. So visit the Engen and Vivo Energy stand at Q38 at the Mining Indaba 2026, where smarter mining meets stronger partnerships. Because mines are always moving. We're always moving.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's get back to Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee.
You are listening to the Ad Hoc Committee live on.
Bangazita has made an arrangement with Honorable Sangone to speak now.
And then it should just mean he follows, and then I go after him.
After her is you.
That's not the order, Chair. I'm after IFP. And Chair didn't speak about or with me about that arrangement.
I can be IFP now if you want, Honorable Soul.
Sorry?
I can be IFP. You know, we're one government, all of us, me, you, IFP.
With respect, Honorable Songane, Chairperson, I'm an equal member here. If there's arrangements made, include me. Don't just tell me from the bench. As a result, this wasn't discussed with me. So I will follow through on the proper rotation. It's IFP, then it's me. I must be included in such arrangements. I can't be coming here and just here and I'm told. Doesn't work like that, Chair. Show me respect also.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Mbangazita, for allowing me to go in your spot. Good afternoon, Mr. O'Sullivan. I'm going to start here because, I mean, I've heard you raising this issue with a number of the members just on the terms of reference. So the terms of reference require us to investigate any related claims regarding corruption, financial or otherwise, bribery, misuse of public resources within SAPS or any other institution, and then evaluating the extent of misconduct, unethical behavior by members of SAPS and any other relevant individuals or institution. So I need you to understand, you know, our engagement in that light. You testified here, and I think from what you've heard coming out from the members, there's obviously a lot of concern about what is perceived as your infiltration of the intelligence services. And, sorry, the SAPS and intelligence services. So tell me, this process, yesterday you were asked about your appointment as a police reservist. Mm-hmm. What was the process for the appointment of a reservist? You indicated the husband to your PA saw you, but what was the actual process?
So, I just pick it up from my memory. My secretary suggested I should meet with the husband, which I did, and he told me that I would have to go and do training. I would have to fill in forms, and they would carry out the criminal record check on me, and if I passed the training, I would become a police reservist, and that's what I did. And when I became a police reservist, my initial activity as a police reservist was crime prevention, which is...
May you please get close to the microphone?
Sorry. My initial work as a police reservist was crime prevention. And then, not Major Edwards, but another person, I can't remember his name, and I think he was a colonel. It's a long time ago. He said to me, actually, there's a course coming up, you can go and do some training to become a detective.
Okay, so I want to come back to that, Mr. O'Sullivan, but just tell me, do you remember what the requirements to become a police reservist were?
Yes, you had to be able to give, I think, 8 hours a week. You had to have no criminal record. You had to be able to drive.
Let me tell you what they are now. So, in order to be appointed as a reservist in the South African Police Service, you must be a South African citizen by birth. You must be between the ages of 25 and 40. Then there's a whole other a number of requirements which I won't go into. But then a person may not be appointed under the following circumstances. So you cannot appoint anybody who is in private investigation services and then it breaks them down. So there was no requirement to be a South African citizen when you joined the police reservists?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, having ascertained that then, you now say that you joined so at this point, I think you're probably a permanent resident. You join criminal detection, you said.
So, when I first joined, I was based at what was then called Halfway House. It's now called Midrand. And we were doing crime prevention duties, which they were pairing us up with permanent members of the service, and you had to wear a uniform, and you go out with them, and you did crime prevention patrols. Sometimes you'd be doing first attendance at a scene of a crime or a traffic accident or something of that nature. And then I think 2 or 3 months after that happened, I was invited by a colonel, I can't remember his name. He said to me that there's a training course going, we need some reservist detectives, and the training took place in Pretoria. And you had to be able to spend 3 or 4 weeks full-time on this training. Would I be prepared to go? And I said, yes, I would like to do that. So I went.
Okay, I know what you are talking about because reservists have 2 categories. One is functional policing, which is a general policing function that you're talking about, and you only wear uniform there only after you've completed specific training. Then the second category is specialized operational support, which would then be the people who have particular skills or expertise, such as detectives. Now, my first issue is you saying it was only after 3 months instead of the ordinary 3 to 5 years that you can move from functional policing to specialized. Yours only took 3 months?
Well, that's what they asked me at the time. So I don't know what it is today, but then that's what they asked me to do. So I was happy to do that. And then after I completed that training, they assigned me to Boyson's police station. And I went and I worked there as a detective.
Okay. So to now move from this category of specialized operational support, to move to it, you must have had particular skills or expertise that could be used by SAP, perform specific functions within his or her expertise. So you joined essentially functional policing, you were identified for training, and then you moved to the second category, which is only reserved for people with specialized skills where you didn't have any.
So I think at that moment in time, what you've just described now, and I mean, obviously I haven't been in reservists for almost 30 years, so it's a long time ago. But I think the current situation isn't what prevailed back then. And I don't have any copies of what prevailed then, but I don't think it was anything like you just explained.
Okay, so I suppose, you know, coming into a foreign country, you are a permanent resident, you move quickly. Okay, let's leave it. You're saying you don't quite think it was the same. But in your opinion then, Mr. O'Sullivan, don't you see anything strange with a former foreign intelligence operative coming in, and you know, whether the rules were tightened or not, but coming into the country, then over the next couple of years becomes so deeply embedded in our law enforcement and even intelligence structures of essentially what is another country? I mean, you were a foreign intelligence operative, like we've gathered. Is this normal to you?
I don't know what's normal, but at the time I didn't see anything wrong with it because I wasn't going to be involved in any intelligence activity. And by the way, at the time, I was a long time out of doing any work of anything to do with military or intelligence. I was a long time out of it, probably 10 years or more. So I ceased to be involved in any intelligence activity 10 years before I joined the police service.
But I mean, the training stays with you, right?
Well, I suppose some of it, but as I pointed out before, I was involved in counter operations, so I wasn't involved in spying and stuff like that. So.
Okay, I'll come to that. Now, during the training, you mentioned that President Ramaphosa was one of the 1,500 reservists you trained. Who else did you train? I'm sure you may remember some of them. And how did it come about that you got to train President Ramaphosa?
So at the time, President Ramaphosa wasn't the president. He was a businessman. And how he came to be on the course, my understanding, and maybe you need to ask him, but how I understand he became on the course, he was a chairman or director of a company called, if I think, maybe JCI, something like that. So I had bought some properties from JCI, by the way. They were selling stands at a development in Dainfern. And I bought some properties there. These stands were being sold cheaply because it was just started, but as it grew, the value of the properties went up. And I think I bought three stands there. And then what happened, although that had nothing to do with Cyril Ramaphosa. These courses would take place, and I was not involved in the decision as to who should be on the courses. I would just arrive there, and we've got a new course starting, and I would see the students that would be sitting there. So I had no knowledge.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
My understanding is that, I'm trying to remember his name now, Mayor Khan, at the time was the CEO of South African Breweries. And Mayor Khan apparently had a meeting with Cyril Ramaphosa, Mr. Ramaphosa, and suggested to him it would be good to demonstrate the need to have more police reservists because crime problems in Johannesburg were becoming a bit hectic. And my understanding is that he decided, oh, this is a good idea. At the time, he was living in Fairlands or in Northcliffe, somewhere there. And he took a decision that he wanted to become a police reservist. Now, after he completed his training, he would have then been assigned to Fairlands Police Station, so I would have not been involved in whatever work he did after that. But I was only responsible for those aspects of his training that sit in here. I was not involved in his firearm training or his marching.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Sullivan. What led to Ms. Sarah Jane Trent terminating her employee in your company?
I think she'd been there about 7 years, and she indicated that she wanted to move on. You know, if you've got a small business, you can reach a point where there's no further room to grow. And she indicated that she wanted to move on.
Okay. Are you still on good speaking terms with her?
Yeah. In fact, when she left, she said, oh, must I hand my laptop back or whatever? And I said, you know what? It's yours. You can keep it. She'd been using it for a number of years.
Okay. I'm going to try and move quite quickly before I run out of time. I'm going back to the permanent residency. You said to Honorable Malema, you had money to purchase property because of the rand-dollar exchange rate. Now, around 1984, the exchange rate was close to parity. I think it was rand-pound. It was £1 to R1.60 for most of the decade. Do you still stand by the fact that you raised your money through, those fluctuations in exchange rate?
Yes, in fact, at the time, Chairman, we had a thing going in the country which was intended to induce investors to come into the country, and they called it the financial rand. So I can't remember what the ratio was, but they practically doubled your money. And at the time, when I brought the funds in, the first batch of funds, the exchange rate, if I remember, was 190 or 181 or something like that to the pound. And we ended up getting 3 rand to the pound. So it automatically boosted the amount of cash that you brought in. But you could you couldn't bring that cash in and then have it as cash. You could only bring it in if you invested. So you had to buy property or you had to invest in a company or something like that. Okay. So I brought money in on the financial rand.
So let's talk about the investment then. So in 1986, you invest in property in South Africa. In 1989, you apply for permanent residency, and you say as a person of independent means. Now, owning property or investing in property in South Africa does not automatically lead to permanent residency. I mean, regardless of how long it's been held. And I think you'll know the criteria for residency. So I think the only exception to that is if your property price or the property value is in excess of 12 million rand in today's money net worth, then you become this financially independent person who can then get a permanent residency. So is this the point that you're making, is that the portfolio that you held at that time was so large that it was only on the basis of it that you got your permanent residency?
No, so it wouldn't be whether you have property or not property. You had to demonstrate that you're a person of independent means. And I don't know what the rules were that they use, but you sit down and you explain what assets you have and what liabilities you have. And they make a decision then that you either are a person of independent means or you're not. And they decided that I was a person of independent means. I had to attend South Africa House in Trafalgar Square in London and be interviewed. And I carried out the interview. And they, I think 3-4 months later, by that stage I already owned a house here, but I only came as a visitor. And 3-4 months later, I got a phone call from the embassy and they said, okay, your application has been approved, you must come in and pick up your permanent residence certificate. So I went in and I picked up my permanent residence certificate, and then I had to activate it within 3 months. So I had to come and live here within 3 months, which I did.
Okay. I suppose the point that I'm getting to, Mr. O'Sullivan, is that a lot of things either changed for you or you managed to do a lot of things that ordinary people don't get to do, you know? So you were either extremely wealthy, for your permanent residence could have been processed that quickly. You moved quickly through the reservist program. Yeah, but I'm just saying there's something there. You were asked yesterday about your knowledge of the situation in South Africa, and I'm linking this to what you were talking about, your work in counter-espionage. So you insisted that you worked largely with the Irish Republic Army, counter-espionage as it relates to the IRA. Am I correct?
I didn't work with the IRA.
I mean, you did counter-espionage work in relation to the IRA.
The counter-terrorism activities.
Okay. Yeah. IRA is the Irish Republic Army, am I right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you're of Irish origin, you lived in the UK, and you did work with the IRA. I would assume...
For the record, I didn't work with the IRA.
What is the English term? I think I'm losing the word. You were working against the IRA? You were investigating, spying? I'm sorry, I don't know the right word to use.
So the purpose was to make sure, you know, it was to combat the terrorist activities.
Of the IRA?
Yes. In the early 70s, things were happening. You know, they were setting off bombs here and there.
That's where I'm coming. Yeah. That's where I'm coming, Mr. O'Sullivan. So the IRA is long thought to be the armed wing of Sinn Féin, and I'm sure as you were countering the work of the IRA, you would know that. Sinn Féin and the African National Congress have got a very, very long relationship dating back to, I mean, even before the early 80s, but definitely while you were busy with the IRA. You also, I mean, your roots to Ireland, you've spoken about, you had Ireland, Netherlands being some of the most vocal anti-apartheid movements at that time. Now, with you working to counter the IRA, you have never come across the history of South Africa, the African National Congress, and the struggle that was being undertaken in this country.
So I think this was, Chairman, this was put to me yesterday, and I explained that I was very young then, and I was low down on...
Committee for the moment. Let's get the news now at 4 o'clock with Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, DA in Joburg calls for the stabilization of the water system and 7 billion rand budgeted for this year's SONA. For SFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. The DA in Johannesburg is calling for the city to implement concrete steps to stabilize the water system while infrastructure repairs are underway. Frustrated residents, including communities in Melville, Brixton and Parktown West, have taken to the streets as the city's water crisis deepens, with many now approaching a month without an uninterrupted water supply. DA Member of Parliament Stephen Moore was speaking during a media briefing in Bruma, east of Johannesburg.
Municipalities carry the primary responsibility. The scale of water leaks we see in Gauteng is the predictable result of political choices. Budgets that do not prioritize maintenance, no matter what mayors say. And you can see that this week.
Parliament has announced a budget of 7 million rand for this year's State of the Nation address. This is significantly less compared to last year's budget of 15.5 million rand. The presiding officers of Parliament, led by the National Assembly Speaker, Thoko Didiza, today briefed the media on Parliament's readiness to host the SONA. President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the State of the Nation address tomorrow evening. Secretary to Parliament, Xolile George, elaborates.
Last year we budgeted 15 million rand. And 15.5, and then we spent 12.3 million. Equipment alone was 9.1 million. Again, there's a context of that huge variation of last year versus why is it significantly less this year. Last year, we had to add a component of hiring the ICC. As you would know, a lot of our guests of members were hosted at ICC. This year, we have a marquee in front of the City Hall, which you will see.
Private investigator Paul O'Sullivan has described the MK Party, the EFF and Action SA as vocal and biased supporters of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Last month, O'Sullivan said he will not be answering questions put to him by MPs from the three parties. However, he's now appearing for a second day before Parliament's Hoc Committee in Cape Town that's investigating allegations of corruption in the criminal justice system. MK Party MP Sibonelo Nomvalo asked O'Sullivan to clarify his statements.
Who are supporters of General Mkhwanazi in Parliament?
All the MKP members, all the Action SA members. To the extent that the Action SA members even go toy-toying in support of General Mkhwanazi.
In Parliament?
No, they don't toy-toy in Parliament. They toy-toy on the street outside of his office with big placards saying, hands off General Mkhwanazi. So what they do is they generate their own bias there.
Voters in the hotly contested Ward 13 by-election in Umzumbe on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal are calling on the party that wins the poll to prioritize the provision of basic services. The ward became vacant following the resignation of an IFP councillor who joined the MK party. The area is faced with a number of challenges such as water shortages and continuous power outages. Bungekile Mthethwa and Sanele Mbata are among the youth eager to see changes in their community.
So we want people to come and vote so that they can say whatever they want. Since we have a problem with the electricity, it's a load shedding. We must not depend to the government. We must fend for ourselves. So we have that kind of councillor message shows from.
For civilization, basically, in a like that. He's got an internet cafe that we don't have at Ward 30, and all the internships and in-service trainings that he's doing for the youth of Umzumbe. So I felt like he can be a very excellent representative for Ward 13.
New research has provided further evidence of how noise pollution has negatively affected the behavior of birds across the world. The study found noise linked to humans has had a significant impact on their habitat use and reproduction. The BBC's Sebastian Usher has the details.
Birds are considered especially vulnerable to noise pollution because of their reliance on acoustic information for survival. The new study, which looks at nearly 4 decades of scientific research on the issue, has found that in some cases noise pollution has caused males to change their courtship songs and messages between parents and their chicks to be disrupted. The effects vary according to where birds nest, with those closer to the ground suffering more harm to reproduction and those higher up experiencing stronger impact on growth, while birds living in urban areas tend to have higher levels of stress hormones.
Recapping the top story, the DA in Johannesburg is calling for the city to implement concrete steps to stabilize the water system while infrastructure repairs are underway. I'm Ondela Mara for SFM News Alliance at 4:30.
In sports, the Sour Proteas get wake-up call as they edge Afghanistan after 2 super overs. Soweto Derby tickets sold out as fans gear up for FNB Showdown, and Foot names exciting SA Under-20 squad for Georgia tour. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Gillily's interchange, and Grayston Drive eastbound in Sandton, slow moving towards Linden Street. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing through Amanzimtoti and Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road, and the N2 outbound is slow moving towards Bunga Avenue. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Right, Eskom is upgrading old electricity meters with modern smart meters, giving you clarity, control and confidence. With your new meter, you'll be able to see your usage in real time, giving you the power to manage your electricity with ease. Smart meters are accurate and help Eskom respond faster to issues. So please allow their authorized installers access to install your new meter. For more information, visit the Eskom website, Eskom Redefining for a Better Future.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Alcohol drowns our hope and fuels our pain. Our streets are flooded. Our families are breaking. Women and children are not safe. Alcohol kills 100 people in South Africa every day. For more information, visit www.truecostofalcohol.africa. Increase excise tax on alcohol.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
All right, huge attention on Paul O'Sullivan at the Hoc Committee, and that's where we go.
Report to Bajani. I think there were 8 names on the list. Pardon? Sorry, I think there were 8 names on the list. And one of the names was Masemola. And one of the names was Mkunazi. There were several other names as well. I mean, if you wait, I can call up the report and we can discuss it. But my recommendation was that there were 6 names on the list that would have been unsuitable for appointment because of their lifestyle.
What would have made Mr. Chauke come to you? What value? Okay, let's move. How is the National Police Commissioner removed, Mr. O'Sullivan?
There's 2 ways. I think the President can remove him, or the President can convene a formal inquiry to determine fitness to hold office.
So an individual like you cannot remove a National Police Commissioner according to the Constitution.
No, absolutely.
So when you said to General Pahlane, I will now turn my attention to having you ejected from your position, what do you mean and how were you going to do that?
I meant by that the criminal charges would result in him being removed from his position.
So do you make it a norm to go around intimidating people and even to the extent of attempting to extort people like General Pahlane, people like General Masemola, the list goes on, the attorneys for Krecha, the Mapungane journalist, why do you do that? I mean, I've got text and text of messages that you sent here to General Pahlane. He came before us and he gave evidence that you have been threatening him. Amongst the things you said, if you do not take action against Munu now, I'm turning my attention back to you. You fix Munu and Kresha, I will lose interest in you. If you don't, I'll be all over you like a bag-fitting suit. Hey, Pahlane, if you think this is a dream, you better wake up. At some point, you, who did you call? It was Mr. Duplessis. I think Mr. Duplessis, you said, hi, scum, where is it now? But I think you get the general sense. And I mean, we've got the evidence also from Mr. Ngabinde. What is happening here, Mr. O'Sullivan?
Well, I suppose one could say that conduct might not be as professional as it could be. But when you're dealing with corruption and criminals, and there was no doubt in my mind by that stage that I was, that's the way it would work. I've got somebody, for example, trying to kill me. And I'm using, as an example, you talk Radovan Krejci's attorneys. Obviously, they weren't trying to kill me, but their client was. In fact, I think there were 6 or 7 multiple attempts where he tried to have me murdered. And I've got sworn statements to that effect. And the attorneys were protecting him. And the attorneys were making false allegations against me.
Sorry, Mr. O'Sullivan, but you see, to General Patlane, you say you will do as I please, as I want, otherwise I will turn my attention to you. Is that not extortion?
No, I don't think that's what I said. I think I said what you need to do is take action. So what was happening at that time?
No, you said, you fix Munu and Kresha and I will lose interest in you. If you don't, I will be all over you like a bag-fitting suit. So did you not then go out and manufacture all these allegations against Patlane so that you could be the bag-fitting suit?
No, I didn't.
And you don't think this was extortion either?
No.
Okay. Because I'm going to run out of time, I want to move to this final one. It was one of your emails also to General Patlane. You said to them in an email as far back as 2016, and finally I should mention that I have now formally notified the British and the US Secret Services that the leadership of SAPS is knowingly supporting Al-Qaeda by protecting Al-Qaeda money laundering in South Africa. As your systematic corruption-driven failures are a threat to the Western world. Enjoy your weekend, Munu, and don't any of you or your accomplices dream of taking unlawful action against me. You'll wake up in a nightmare. Now, you have been pains to tell us that you left intelligence services. But in this email, which was 5th February 2016, I think I've seen, does this not demonstrate that you still have ties with British intelligence services?
No, because in fact, you can go online now and you can file a report. You can go online and file a report, for example, with British. And by the way, a docket was opened against me for that. And I had to give an explanation as to who I notified. And I provided that explanation. And it was done online. So you can go online and you can send information like that.
Okay. And then your relationship with the US Secret Service?
It's an online portal.
Okay. So what then did you expect these foreign intelligence services to do with that information once you'd filed it online?
Well, in fact, I didn't expect them to do anything. What I expected General Patlane to do was to take action against General Munu. That's what I expected to happen.
Do you find it proper, Mr. O'Sullivan, that you come into this country, you seek permanent residency, I'm not sure if ultimately citizenship, then instead of going, for example, to the South African State Security Agency when you have problems with the higher echelons of our police service, you think that the right thing to do is to report to foreign intelligence services?
So the report to those 2 intelligence services was in respect of the Al-Qaeda link.
Did you report it to the South African State Security Agency?
The South African State Security Agency at that time was captured.
According to you?
I think according to everybody.
Okay. My last question in these 3 minutes that I've got. You said, Mr. O'Sullivan, to Honorable Ola, you would not...
Sorry, to who?
Honorable Ola, sorry, the gentleman behind me.
Sorry, thank you.
You said to him that you would not recognize a grabber if you saw it. Would you recognize dismantled pieces of a grabber if you saw it?
No.
Okay.
I've never seen a grabber in my life.
So
I hear about them, but I've never seen one.
All right. So, I mean, there's allegations that are being made, and to some extent, I think some of them come from General Mkhwanazi, that on or around the 31st of January 2017, you attempted to secure, formally it's called a cell phone interception agent in the UK. You planned to have it disassembled in Liberia, and it would enter South Africa through various ports of entry in pieces, thereafter reassembled. Did you ever attempt to purchase a grabber, dismantle it in the UK, and bring it into the country unlawfully?
Never in my life.
Okay.
Sorry, Chairman, are you saying that General Mkhwanazi gave that evidence? Because
it's in piece and bits everywhere, including from the city of Johannesburg, where it is alleged that General Sibiya purchased a grabber, and this grabber would have come from you facilitating it through illegal smuggling in a dismantle fashion.
Absolutely not.
Okay, I think maybe I could stop there. No, I've got one question in the minute. In one of your paragraphs, you said, paragraph 57, you contend that there is a third force. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing, but it's on paragraph 37. There's this third force that's working with all of these forces, and their reach extends to the National Assembly. What did you mean by that?
Okay, so will we have a situation where, and I think it's common cause now, that there are certain, when I say this, the National Assembly, I'm talking about Parliament. And I think it's a fact of life that if we turn the clock back, the intelligence services were being managed by a minister, David Mkhlobo. And while David Mkhlobo was the Minister of Intelligence, he was running a parallel intelligence organization.
Through Parliament?
But he's a member of Parliament, so his conduct reaches into Parliament.
Can you give us any evidence of that? I mean, you're literally saying, you're casting aspersions on the National Assembly. So if there's a third force operating within the National Assembly, we'd like to know.
Okay, so I do believe I'm going to refer to an email that I sent on the 6th of June 2018 to the National Prosecuting Authority. And because of my lack of trust for the intelligence service in this country, which I consider to be captured, and because of my lack of trust for the police service at that time, which I considered to be captured, I didn't know who to send it to. So I sent it to the Director of Public Prosecutions in Gauteng. And it's a sworn statement by an individual. And he sets out in detail, and by the way, I didn't invite him to come and tell me this. He approached me. He sets out in detail, and he provides evidence with bank statements. And he lists the names of all the people that they were carrying out this unlawful surveillance on.
Thank you so much.
In the National Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan.
It's ad hoc committee. This is the National Pulse.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The villains are charging toward the summit with victory firmly in their sights.
There, a minute arriving, Ollie Watkins, and he's in there. He's 2-0 to Aston Villa, and it's Ollie Watkins with a much-needed goal.
Yet The Seagulls are counting on the power of 3 points to run away from the danger zone.
Ayari into Costulas, brilliantly left Gross! A true Albion legend back on the score sheet in blue and white.
This is the Premier League. Catch Aston Villa versus Brighton and Hove Albion this Wednesday, 11 February at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC 3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
When music meets nature, something unforgettable happens. Symphony by the Water, a world-class live music experience set against the breathtaking beauty of Midmar Dam, featuring the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra, Spogazi, the Black Lapels, Saturday, the 7th of March, 2026. Day tickets from $150, evening tickets from $350. Tickets available at WebTicket and Pick n Pay. Symphony by the Waters, where sound flows. X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
All right, and let's go right back to Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee.
You are listening to the Ad Hoc Committee.
A short break at the Ad Hoc Committee gives us a chance to connect with you. Anything that stands out for you today, you certainly can connect, and the best way to do so via WhatsApp 0614 104 107. We'll bank your voice notes and play them when we can, as we are going to do right now.
Hello, Ashraf. They're trying to discredit Paul O'Sullivan. Because once they discredit Paul, they discredit his investigation, the information that he has. But we know, we've lived through this democratic government, and we've seen with our own eyes the corruption and the misuse of power. And Paul O'Sullivan has brought cases, he's got evidence. What the Ad Hoc Committee must do is for him to reveal that evidence and scrutinize that evidence. You know, they can attack him on another day, but we want to see what he knows. Thank you, Vince Cape Town.
Interesting point. Some suggest, are they being too personal?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Mbongo Sundi Sambuyisa here. Mr. Ashraf, since it seems as if Mr. Paul O'Sullivan received a fat salary under false pretense or with qualifications that he doesn't have, is there no law or where maybe he can be taken to task to return all the money that he received as a remuneration since he lied about his qualifications?
Well, I mean, that's the question, is whether he lied. I mean, you can have qualifications and then apply to work in a place, and if they offer you a position anyway, that's not the same thing, is it? Right, here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm not happy at all with that ad hoc committee in Parliament. Rushing off time like that instead of getting information. They are not probing. They are just there for a few minutes to ask such questions. They don't probe. They are not looking for information. They are looking at the quantity of time allocated. I'm really not happy. I am really not happy. Andooks in Durban.
Thank you. You've certainly made your point very, very clear. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Clearly, the man
Paul O'Sullivan is an agent. He's a lying agent. He's just terrible at it. Maybe he was thrown out because he was bad at this intelligence thing. He's an agent. We should know that. We should not try and waste time trying to find out whether he was or was he not. He's not going to say, no secret agent is going to come out and say, I am an agent. He's going to deny until death. Let's move on. Take him as an agent and move forward. I'm Soviet and King Williamstown. Yeah, this disgusting lie is making me sick, Paul O'Sullivan.
Sure. And there's more from others who think the same, actually.
Very good afternoon, Ashraf. Mr. Paul O'Sullivan held the intelligence of this country ransom without qualifications. Oh my goodness. He even not ashamed to lie under oath. I hope they are going to open a case of perjury against him after his testimony. Shoti Signolo in Mafefe, Limpopo. Thank you, Ashraf.
Thank you. You're not the only person who thinks he's lying. In fact, there are many who feel just that.
Afternoon, Ashraf, Eroya from Durban. You know, I find this interview with Paul O'Sullivan by the committee more interesting than all the other witnesses that they've had, except maybe for Mkwanasi. It's strange that Paul O'Sullivan can remember some things about 26, 27 years ago, and yet he can't remember other things. Who's fooling who here? And what I'm waiting for is one of the committee to ask him what evidence has he to say that Mkwanasi is a rogue and belongs in prison. Errol, Durban.
Thanks, Cheryl. That's likely to come anyway, I'm sure of that. Right, let's get to Bloemfontein. Zola, go for it.
Ashraf, how are you, my friend?
I'm good indeed, right.
Yeah. Ashraf, these ad hoc committee members, they are not very relevant to the questions that they're asking Mr. O'Sullivan. If they want to discredit him, they must not be personal. He must give you the facts based on his statement. But they are all over the show asking him about his employment, about his qualifications and all those things. I think what is important here, it is one as the allegations that he made against the people who are appearing at Madlanga and others, not going all around the show. Can they be relevant, please, to the facts before the commission? Thank you, sir.
Well, I mean, it's a question I've asked before. Like, do you think they are spending too much time just personally trying to understand himself as opposed to what the allegations are that he may have done, or who has he been friends with, right? Do you think the same?
Hey, good day, SFM and listeners. This Paul O'Sullivan guy is trying to teach these ad hoc committee members and how to ask questions, and is delaying them when he's supposed to answer the question by going backwards. Give them the description. Oh my witness. This guy really is trying his all level best to be above these committee members. I don't know what's wrong with them. They should just grill him until the truth comes out. Thank you. This is Mhlenhle.
You're not thinking they are grilling him or attempting to grill him right now? Right, 4:30 news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Free State Department of Agriculture has confirmed 35 new cases of foot and mouth disease, bringing the provincial total to 291 cases. The DA in Johannesburg is calling for the city to implement concrete steps to stabilize the water system while infrastructure repairs are underway. And private investigator Paul O'Sullivan has described the MK Party, the EFF and Action SA as vocal and biased supporters of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, there's a crash on the N1 southbound at Rivernia Road, a stationary vehicle on the N1 southbound at Brakfontein Road, and a stationary vehicle on the N12 eastbound at Uncle Charlie's Interchange. In KZN, the N2 northbound slow moving towards the M41 gateway exit, there's a crash on the N3 southbound after Cliffdale Interchange. The outer lanes have been closed, and a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound at Harry Gwala Road. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange. There's a crash on the R300 southbound after Van Riebeeck Road and Voortrekker Road outbound slow moving through Maitland. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
Chumi, everybody's still talking about that incredible match, and there's reaction from one of the players.
And the only thing I can say is that if you don't love cricket, trust me, you are missing out, because this T20 World Cup, man, oh man, today South Africa versus Afghanistan, it was crazy. And Proteas batter Ryan Rickleton has admitted to peak anxiety levels in the dressing room as they got over the line by the skin of their teeth against Afghanistan in their second match of the ongoing T20 World Cup in India and Sri Lanka. In some dramatic scenes, both sides scored exactly 187 in their 20 overs before unbelievably both hitting 17 runs in the first super over. Still needing to be separated, South Africa put up 23 with Tristan Stubbs and David Miller at the crease. This time they were able to defend it by only 4 runs, and Rickleton, who top scored for his side in the normal overs with 61, says that they were all nervous in the midst of the chaos.
Just anxiety. I think we're standing there, all of us sitting there upstairs, fingers crossed, like, come on guys, just more hope than anything. But yeah, like I said, it was an absolute whirlwind of a game. We were all in it. We rode the emotions, obviously, just like everyone else did. And it was pretty tough, but yeah, just glad that we got over the line.
Trust me, I was also on the edge of my couch, but he also added that this was a massive wake-up call for them early in the tournament, and a reminder that they cannot take any opponent for granted at this level.
It does, yeah. It gives us a proper wake-up call, things you can't take for granted. Afghanistan's a team they're a serious cricket team. No one ever took them for granted, but it's just the small things when you have opportunities to close down games, or when you have opportunities with the foot on their throat. You can't let any team back in. So it is a bit of a wake-up call, I'd like to think, just in trying to have that edge, have that sharpness, and when you get ahead, stay ahead, and just make sure that you're looking after those really small things. Like I said, it can come back to bite you. So it'd be a nice wake-up call for all of us, and a lot of things can get better at.
In football, tickets to the Soweto Derby between Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates at the FNB Stadium on the 28th of February have officially been sold out. Demand was very overwhelming, with tickets snapped up in a record time, both online and at retail outlets. Fans lucky enough to secure seats are urged to arrive early to enjoy activations and entertainment and prize giveaways organized by Chiefs and their sponsors. And supporters without tickets are advised to watch from home with family and friends, as security will be on high alert and gatherings near the stadium will not be permitted. In terms of rugby, junior Springbok coach Kevin Foot has named a 31-man squad for this month's tour of Georgia, featuring 4 players from last year's Under-20 World Championship winning side. The group blends experience with youth, including the likes of Riley Norton, Piwa Kubeka and Siposetu Menebele, alongside some rising stars from the unbeaten SA Under-18 campaign. The junior Boks depart on the 15th of February for 3 matches, 2 against Georgia, before returning on the 28th of February. In the meantime, the Stormers have secured another cornerstone of their future, with fly half Yuri Matthew signing a new 3-year contract to stay in Cape Town until 2029, product of Paul Gymnasium and also a standout for Marties in the Varsity Cup. Matthew has already earned 21 caps since debuting in late 2024. And finally, in motorsport, NASCAR launched its 2026 season with a record-breaking stunt in Times Square, setting a Guinness World Records title for the world's loudest billboard. Now, the custom installation featured a full-scale next-gen engine that roared at 133.7 decibels, bringing the unmistakable sound of stock car racing to New York City. And the activation is part of NASCAR's bold new Hell Yeah brand refresh, and is designed to showcase the sport's energy to fresh audiences ahead of the Daytona 500, which is on the 15th of February. That's it from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, and with me with all those numbers, Makwe Masilela. Makwe, you've got news about Capitec Bank.
Yes, this is their yearly update. Ashraf, they made strategic decisions, that is like implementing a simplified fee structure, including reductions in transaction fees that help to increase transaction volume and increased income from value-added services, and also from Capitec Connect. And then also they have seen an improved macroeconomic condition, helping them to be able to lend more when it comes to personal and business banking. As a result, the associated credit life insurance products demand increase, and the guys, they expect profits as headline earnings per share to go up by 25%. And treasury yields, when we started the session, were falling after data from the US showed us that their December retail sales growth stalled, indicating a weaker economy, and that was ahead of the key jobs data, while the dollar weakening and stocks going up. But the market's hopes were later lifted when we got a much better than expected January jobs report, showing that the US economy remains on a firm footing, and we locally were also getting our December mining and manufacturing production reports tomorrow. After both decreased in November, Ashraf, both sectors accounts for roughly 20% of our economy, and Chinese consumer inflation grew less than expected, underscoring still weaker household demand that is putting pressure on Beijing to deploy more fiscal and monetary stimulus, that is to revive the consumption. Oil prices heating up at the back of improved demand, and also the potential supply risk should the US-Iran tension escalate. Brent crude is up 2.5% at $70 a barrel, and the dollar lifted the yellow metal. Gold is up 1% at 5,081. Platinum is up 4% at 2,176. And evidence of firm global economies that self is boosting market sentiments, with the JSE up 0.8%, and resources continue to do the heavy lifting. The rand firmed 0.3% against the dollar, 15.89, 21.68 against the pound, and 18.84 against the euro.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that, Makwe. Don't forget, you got Jimmy coming up. Jimmy Muyaha, 6 to 7 this evening with an hour of the markets. We get back to the Hoc Committee after this.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
In fact, we'll check if, in fact, they have they had a short break, and let's see whether they've started again. And if so, then we will cross to the Hoc Committee. In fact, we'll do that in just a second. But it just gives me a chance to play some voice notes to get your thoughts on some of the biggest issues. Naturally, O'Sullivan is topic number one. Okay, let me just do that again. Yeah.
Hi, Ashraf. Good afternoon. This guy, Paul O'Sullivan, if he managed to ingratiate himself with the security personnel or the people there and managed to manipulate them, whose fault is that? That is the fault of the ANC cadres. He was able to make them look like fools. The same thing with the Guptas or the others who have come here, Bell Pottinger or something like that. They came here and made fool of us because of the ANC's stupidity. They are to blame for that. They can't start now and turn around and blame Paul O'Sullivan and call him an agent. They allowed him to be amongst themselves, to manipulate them, to fool them. And now they want to blame everybody except themselves. Viga, Peter Marisberg.
Okay, what's that story? Takes two to two to tango. Yeah. Okay, back to Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee.
So, you have to go through quite a bit of training. You have to demonstrate, apart from the courses that you go on, that you have worked in fraud investigation, and then you have to pass exams. And I think the exams plus minus 2 or 3 hours each, and there's 3 or 4 of them.
Okay, thank you. Who is the certifying authority?
The Association of Certified Fraud Examiners.
Thank you. Is there any difference between the certified fraud examiner and the fraud investigator? What is the difference?
So you
except
can have,
in semantics.
I think probably there would be certain people that would describe themselves as fraud investigators, and they may have certain skills. And then the only difference being that the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners is a professional body. And if you have been certified by them, you're entitled to call yourself a certified fraud examiner and put the letter CFE after your name.
In paragraph 9, you say you actually joined the South African Police Service as a reservist in around 1990, 1991. You, at one time, you actually received an award as the best performing police officer of the year in Johannesburg.
That's correct.
So what was outstanding about your performance as a police reservist?
So there'd been a number of cases in the Boysons area. So Johannesburg was split into all the police stations in the Johannesburg area. And obviously at that stage, all of the investigations that I was involved in the police were in the Boysons area. And there'd been a number of investigations which we'd been quite successful at, where after giving evidence in court, the magistrates sent through commendations about the quality of the evidence that was given in court. And then I received personal commendations from the station commander of the detective branch, which at that stage was Colonel Badenhorst. And I got a phone call one day in 1994, and I'm told, you have been nominated as the Policeman of the Year for Johannesburg. So then I received a cup, and there was a newspaper article, and I looked everywhere for it, but I couldn't find it. But there was a cup, and I kept it for a year and then handed it back.
Thank you. As a police reservist, was there any specific role assigned to you as a reservist that you were actually specifically, expected to perform? What was your role specifically? Was it a general crime prevention, or there was a specific role that you played as a police reservist?
So in the first period, it was crime prevention, as you've suggested. And then after I was posted at Boysons Police Station, I was in the detective branch, and then I would accompany another detective. So detectives, it may be different now, but 25 years ago, detectives didn't go on duty on their own. They went in pairs. So I used to go I used to get paired with another detective, and we would go and work shifts. And sometimes we do what we call hot cases. That's where an incident takes place, and you get leads and you run with the incident until you can crack the case. So they call it the first 24 hours. I think there's some people refer to it as the first 48 hours. But some cases are cracked if you work on them quickly. And what I used to do was say, hey, you know, whether it was intuition, I suppose it was in my DNA to follow certain cases and crack those cases. And the people that I worked with were quite impressed. And we used to do that and crack those cases, yeah.
Well, thank you. Are you aware that at the time of your joining the South African police, the South African police was actually very notorious for its brutality to suppress popular uprising by oppressed people, black people in this country? You should have been aware at the time when you joined. What really motivated you to join as a reservist at that particular moment in time?
Chair, if I can say, today is the 12th of February. And on the 12th of February, 1990, Nelson Mandela was released from prison. And the country had started to move in a direction where it was moving towards democracy. And I think by 91 or 92, I was involved with a company called Sage Properties. We were running a large property portfolio, and I was approached by an agent who said they wanted to rent a building for the ANC, and they identified a building at 16 Frederick Street. So a lease was drawn up and the building was let to the ANC at 16 Frederick Street from Sage Properties. And a short while after that, an oil company called Shell, they decided to donate a building called Shell House to the ANC. So they would no longer have to pay rent. And it was agreed that they could move out of 16 Frederick Street. And there was I motivated to the board of Sage Properties that there should be no penalty for, terminating the lease early. So that happened. And at the same time, I met the then legal manager of the ANC. At that stage, there'd been no democratic elections. But I met the legal manager of the ANC, and we became friends. And his name was Matthews Porsa, and we're still friends. And around the same time, around the same time, I took a decision to help in the police by reducing crime in Johannesburg, but obviously not in a way that would have been, well, there was no constitution then, but not in a way that would have been unconstitutional in terms of some of the things that had previously been going on between the police and the majority of the community.
Well, in fact, concomitant with that, the release of Honorable President Mandela in 1990, but violence actually, especially at that time, especially black-on-black violence, was at its peak.
It was mind-blowing.
During the time when you actually signed up as a police reservist. So someone might actually want to understand, because there was overwhelming evidence that the role of the police during that time was not very helpful. So much so that actually other people said that there was a third force which was fanning those flames of violence. Would it be far-fetched if people were to say, perhaps you could have been part of that?
Committee, just for the moment, a reminder, this is the National Pulse.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Koketso Sachane on SAFM.
Not so national importance announcement by John Steenhuisen.
We are all important to ourselves. Like, when you come and tell us, if you have to come and give me an announcement, I must believe that that announcement is important to you and it's important to the people around your circle, because they themselves are losing a political figure, right? It's of national importance in and around your neighborhood, and I think that's what he meant.
On a serious note, though, what do you make of what's happening?
I think it was almost inevitable, right? Because when you listen to war strategists, they'll tell you never fight a war on two fronts. And in this case, John Steenhuisen was fighting a war on three fronts, right?
The Meeting Point, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m.
So Eskom is upgrading
of the house. Cellular phones weren't available then, but we called on
control and confidence. With your new meter, you'll be able to see your usage in real time, giving you the power to manage your electricity with ease. Smart meters are accurate and help Eskom respond faster to issues. So please allow their authorized installers access to install your new meter. For more information, visit the Eskom website, Eskom, redefining for a better future.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
And here we are, Paul O'Sullivan at the Parliament Ad Hoc Committee.
Those negotiations were intended to be part of this transition from apartheid to democracy. And those negotiations were going on, and these AWP people, they tried to interrupt those negotiations. So I actually did participate in preventing that activity, because they formed a unit in the police then called Peace Accord. Peace, not police. Peace Accord, but it was a police unit. And they wanted volunteers that were prepared to go and be part of this Peace Accord unit and liaise with the ANC. And the person we were liaising with was Tokyo Sekwali, Mr. Sekwali, and obtain information about that they had about people involved in right-wing activities. And as a result of that, I participated, of course, not in the planning stage, because I was still quite young in those days, but I participated in raids that were carried out overnight on a number of properties where the people were arrested. And I remember going into the houses and seeing cupboards full of canned food and stuff like that. So I think it would be very far-fetched to say that I was part of a third force, when in fact I was trying to contribute towards the cessation of this anti-democracy activity.
Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. Did you have any particular experience in the aviation security prior to your appointment as the group executive at AXA?
Yes, Chairman, because when I was working in the border police, because I understood the aviation business, which I did, I mentioned yesterday that I have my own aircraft. I also had shares in airline, a freight carrying airline, and that airline was called Africa International Airways. It no longer exists. We had a couple of DC-9s, and we used to move freight up and down in Africa. And most of that freight would have been foodstuffs and that sort of thing. So I had a particular interest while I was working at the Border Police in aviation security. And I undertook training with ICAO, and the training was in aviation security management. So I became a certified aviation security manager. So I had that experience and that knowledge. And I also had taken the initiative to bring about a lot of changes at the airport, in particular Johannesburg Airport, which there was rife with crime. And those changes were quite successful.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sullivan. We have a constraint of time here. I take particular note that in 1995, you were elected chairperson of the CPF in Johannesburg, which one regards as a strategic economic hub of South Africa. And in year 2000, you became part of a multinational team in border policing at Johannesburg International Airport. Yet another strategic national key point, which is critically important for economic development for a young democracy then. Now, some people might actually argue that that was too quick for you to actually climb the ladder, as it were, of promotions and getting into strategic, structures of this country. And some people might actually view that with a lot of suspicion because it resembles a typical modus operandi of agents, if I may say so, of some dubious forces that were hell-bent on undermining the future of this democracy. How would you actually respond to such?
Thank you, Chair. The role as the chairman of the Community Policing Forum in Johannesburg came about because I was a general manager of a property company which owned several hundred million rands worth of property in Johannesburg, CBD. And the difficulty we had with the spiraling levels of crime in the city centre was that if those levels of crime did not come down, the value of the property portfolio would be reduced substantially. So I think that particular community police forum was formed as a result of us getting the property companies in Johannesburg CBD together to look at ways of reducing crime. And there were two initiatives. And the one initiative was called the City Improvement District, which was sponsored by Anglo-American Properties. And the other initiative was to form a community policing forum, which was sponsored by Sage Properties. And when it was formed, we got a number of people who were property owners who joined the community police forum. And then there was a discussion and an election took place, and it was an informal election, and they asked me to be the chairman of the community policing forum.
We can. This is the National Pulse. Right now, the news with Greg Host. It's 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. New cases of foot and mouth disease in O'Sullivan continues his testimony in Parliament. Good afternoon. The Free State Department of Agriculture has confirmed 35 new cases of foot and mouth disease, bringing the provincial total now to 291 cases. The department says outbreaks have been recorded in several parts of the province, with infected farms placed under quarantine and movement restrictions implemented. A suspected case near Bloemfontein is also under investigation. The DA in Johannesburg is calling for the city to implement concrete steps to stabilise the water system while infrastructure repairs are underway. Frustrated residents, including communities in Melville, Brixton and Parktown West, have taken to the streets as the city's water crisis deepens, with many now approaching a month without an interrupted water supply. DA MP Stephen Moore.
Municipalities carry the primary responsibility. The scale of water leaks we see in Gauteng is the predictable result of political choices. Budgets that do not prioritise maintenance, no matter what mayors say. And you can see that this week.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has officially opened the new Mandela Rules Training Academy at the Drakensberg Correctional Facility in Paarl in the Western Cape. The facility was formerly known as the Victor Verster Prison. It's the correctional facility from which the first democratically elected president, the late Nelson Mandela, walked to freedom in February 36 years ago. Ramaphosa says the new academy is the embodiment of Mandela's values.
Today, the Drakensberg Correctional Facility once again stands at the threshold of a new chapter in our country's history. We are here to open a training center that will carry Nelson Mandela's name and carry forward his legacy of service, of dedication, leadership, and of rebuilding. The Nelson Mandela Rules Training Academy stands as a powerful affirmation of the values Madiba stood for, but also the values that he lived by and that continue to guide our democracy. This facility will embody the letter and the spirit of the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules.
Private investigator Paul O'Sullivan described the MK Party, the EFF and Action SA's vocal and biased supporters of the KZN Police Commissioner. Last month, O'Sullivan said he'd not be answering questions put to him by MPs from the three parties. However, he's now appearing for a second day before Parliament's ad hoc committee that's investigating allegations of corruption in the justice system. MK Party MP Sibonelo Mvalo asked O'Sullivan to clarify his statements.
Who are supporters of General Mkhwanazi in Parliament?
All the MKP members, all the Action SA members. To the extent that the Action SA members even go toy-toying in support of General Mkhwanazi.
In Parliament?
No, they don't toy-toy in Parliament. They toy-toy on the street outside of his office with big placards saying, hands off General Mkhwanazi. So what they do is they generate their own bias there.
Finally, Madagascar's disaster management office says the number of people killed in a tropical storm has now risen to 20, with 15 others missing. The cyclone made landfall yesterday, slamming into the island's second city and main port, Tomaseria, with wind speeds in excess of 200 kilometres an hour. The top story, the Free State Department of Agriculture has confirmed 35 new cases of foot and mouth disease. This brings the provincial total to 291 cases. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khus.
In sports, the Sour Calling clears the air on perceived conflict in Chiefs' New Deal. Proteas edge Afghanistan after 2 super overs, and Crusaders defend title as Super Rugby celebrates 30th season. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing towards Boysons, Barry Herzog Avenue in Melville is slow moving near Judith Road, and Olifantsfontein Road in Midrand has delays at Lever Road. In KZN, there's a crash on the N3 southbound after Cliffdale interchange, a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound after Ashburton interchange, and a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound after Key Ridge West. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound has a crash before Kromboom Road, the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange, and Strand Road eastbound in Stikland, slow moving towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, you know, tomorrow's a big day in Parliament with the State of the Nation address. We'll have a preview of that around 10 to 6-ish, just before we wrap up the show. But for now, let's get back to Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee. As always, the last 2 days, the voice of Paul O'Sullivan.
Afterwards, after the cancellation of the Kusalani contract, and it was initiated by Jackie Salebi, asking for the people that sat on that committee to be in possession of security clearance. Nobody had ever spoken to me about security clearance for the first, let's say, 18 months that I was working at AXA. It just popped up out of the blue.
Let me put it this way. Can you elaborate on how you came to know about the General Salebi, President Mpegi plan to arrest Mr. Zuma, which you are actually alluding to on paragraph 37 of your...
I came to know about it through the spy tapes. So if you go back in time, and I think I explained it, but I'll explain it again. The attorneys of Jacob Zuma approached Mokoteri Mshay after Vusi Bikoli was suspended. And when they approached Mokoteri Mshay, they made a representation in terms of, I can't remember the section now of the National Prosecuting Authority Act, where you can make a representation about criminal charges. And they made a representation. And in making that representation, they played the tapes and they provided copies of the transcripts of the tapes themselves. And that wasn't the only thing that happened, because around the same time, and I can't remember if it was before or after that event, but around the same time, Nomkhoba Jiba had been suspended. And she was the deputy or acting National Director of Public Prosecutions. She had been suspended, and she brought a court application to have her suspension set aside. And when she brought her court application to have her sentencing set aside, she attached to that court application the transcripts of the so-called spy tapes, the same spy tapes. So now it was in the public domain because somebody gave that to a journalist at the Mail and Guardian, and the Mail and Guardian published the details of those spy tapes. And that's where, in those spy tapes, you've got these conversations that were going on between a person called, codename Luciani, and another person called Leonard McCarthy.
Okay, thank you. In paragraph 56 of your testimony, you say that, and I quote, Mkhwanazi was not truthful. That is, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi was not truthful when he made press conference on the 6th of July, 2025, and when he appeared before this committee. Can you at least identify two untruths that you identified in his testimony? Just two.
Well,
of time.
There were several, but the ones that come to my mind immediately are that General Mkhwanazi created the impression that I would call it a criminal enterprise, that a criminal enterprise consisted of members of the National Prosecuting Authority, judges, senior members of the police, and that the purpose of that criminal enterprise was to derail investigations that were allegedly being carried out into another criminal enterprise known as the Big Five cartel. And ironically, nobody could produce any details of who this Big Five cartel is. And when the questions were asked, when the media asked who's this Big Five cartel, Nobody's been able to say, when they give evidence, who are the big five cartel? No, we can't tell you. So that's the first point. Second point is, it was alleged by General Mkhwanazi that I had captured IPID. That was a complete lie. It was also alleged by General Mkhwanazi that I was a foreign agent and I'm running the country. That's a complete lie.
With regards to your having captured IPID, Mkhwanazi's averment was corroborated by Mr. Nkabinde.
Well, of course it would be.
Who actually appeared before this committee.
Of course it would be, because General Mkhwanazi and Cedric Nkabinde, you can take the evidence of Humbalani Kuba, and I can just take you there very briefly, because what it does, in fact, is it completely dispels this idea that, and I don't want to eat into your time, so I'm looking for it quickly, but there is a affidavit by Humbalani Kuba that was provided to the, here it is, it's on page Q1090. It's a very short affidavit, and I would like to suggest that we have a quick look at it, because this is the affidavit. By the way, I pulled this from the website of the Sondo Commission. This is the affidavit that Humbalani Kuba placed to the Sondo Commission.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did read that affidavit.
Okay, well, the relevant portion, if you turn to page 1092, paragraph 9, he says, on or around February 2018, I was informed by General Nemo Tansela that there is someone who would want to meet me privately in Sandton. I refused to meet with such person in Sandton and insisted that the person should meet me in Pretoria. I then went to a location within Pretoria to meet General Nemo Tansela, accompanied by Mr. Madlanga and Mr. Gibson. However, the two investigators remained in the car. During the meeting, General Nemo Tansela introduced me to General Mkhwanazi. I know General Mkhwanazi from the investigation of the rendition case which I dealt with in the past, and have respect for him. General Mkhwanazi told me he had a 204 statement from Mr. Nkabinde. So I'm just saying this links General Mkhwanazi with Mr. Nkabinde.
I've read that.
So that explains the corroboration that took place 9 years later at this committee.
Well, in paragraph 62, you are actually alleging that there was, in inverted commas, rampant criminal activity within PKTT. And you're basing that on 4 statements which were supplied to you by an anonymous supplier.
In fact,
and you also characterize those gifts, the exchanges of gifts that actually took place there, as gratification given to those police officers. It would be interesting to me to know how did the entire investigation in Fort Hare end up, because those gifts were actually coming from Mr. Plaiki, who had been introduced to the team as a contact person because he was director of internal investigations in the university. And he was introduced to the team by even the rector of the university, that in the event they needed anything, he is the contact person.
That's the way I understand it.
How did the whole investigation end? Are you aware of that?
No.
Now, let me tell you, the very same Platke who actually
Oh, I
gave
know
these
that
four,
part. He was arrested and charged with murder.
gifts, was actually the one who was arrested by the very same people. Would you therefore say that those gifts were gratification?
Correct.
Why so?
If you look at Act 12 of 2004, it's defined in Section 3. It defines what a gratification is. And those gifts, whatever you want to call them, they amount to gratification in terms of Section 3 of Act 12 of 2004.
Thank you. On paragraph 69, and if I may quote, you say, one of the central players in the capture of the criminal justice system is Mr. Peggy Tell. Can you substantiate this allegation?
So I've actually given some examples. I don't know if I can reach that example right now, but I've given the example of a gentleman by the name of Chamani. If you bear with me a second while I look at my index.
Sir, I have only 5 minutes left.
No, I'm sorry, I can't find it quickly, but there
Okay,
are,
now let's
in here a letter where Commissioner Masemola introduces everybody in the police to the new head of legal services in the police. And it's a gentleman by the name of, I can't remember his first name, but his surname is Chamani, C-H-A-M. Here we go. It's page 242. So if you have a look at that 242, there's a file note, and I sent this file note back then.
Okay, can we move on, please, because I honestly do not have time. In paragraph 160, we are characterizing Lieutenant General Mkhwana as a criminal. What are the bases for your allegation?
So he entered into a corrupt relationship with, first of all, Nkabindi, secondly with, or attempted to enter into a corrupt relationship with a person by the name of Humbalani Kuba, and he attempted to enter into a corrupt relationship with the late Mr. Madlanga Commission, and that attempt went to the extent of drawing up an affidavit for him. And that affidavit, Madlanga Commission got cold feet and decided not to sign the affidavit. And that affidavit would have been an affidavit that would have impugned the character and integrity of Robert McBride. In the case of Cedric Nkabindi, he offered him a job as a brigadier in the police, in return for which Cedric Nkabindi would supply him with an affidavit which would impugn the character of Robert McBride, and he attempted to do the same with Humbalani Kuba. So that activity alone would be classed as corruption as defined in Act 12 of 2004.
Thank you. I went through your testimony here, and it has actually amazed me how easy you find it possible for you to just throw wild accusations against the character of people, and without actually any substantiation. You actually call people criminals. You actually even alleging that Ms. Mieni was Mr. Zuma's mistress, and you can't even substantiate all of those things. Why do you find it easy to actually put people in such bad light without any evidence?
Well, I suppose you would call it tit for tat. So if we go back to the 6th of July, the conduct started by, as an example, General Mkonazi. General Mkonazi then went to the Madlanga Commission. And
Honorable Souls, can you grab the microphone and start questioning the witness?
Thank you. Do that as they sort out their mics in just a moment. You've been listening to the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. This is the National Pulse.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, and let's reconnect to Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee.
I'm going to approach this. So indulge me for a minute. I must be frank with you. How I was introduced to you, not in person, but through the committee engagement of you having to come here. And I must be frank with you, I hate how you introduced yourself to us. As someone who encountered you for the first time, you came across as very rude. You came across as someone with a disregard for us in the legislature and the executive. Then when I listened to you when you testified, you further confirmed that here in how you addressed our leaders, for example, our President, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, by addressing him on a first name basis. Then your posture of dictating conditions to us created a perceived expression of a default colonialist mental setting. But, Mr. O'Sullivan, no matter how I feel personally about how you've been introduced to me, and it's important that I remind myself why I'm here. I'm not here to assess how your behavioral conduct is, or the lack thereof. But I'm here to test the submissions that you put before me, or before us. And when I look at the submissions that you put before us, no matter how I feel about your posture and your demeanor, I cannot ignore, when I read your submissions, your heroism. I cannot ignore your sacrifice and your immense contribution in your fight for justice in our country. And so if I strictly just look at that and look away from how I was introduced to you and your perceived posture, I want to say to you, based on what I read here, thank you very much for your sacrifice. You're a hero. But like I told Mr. McBride, even heroes have holes. Our shared Christian faith teaches us about Jesus, who's more than the hero, is an actual savior. Yet even Jesus had holes in his body. But the difference with Jesus was when Thomas doubted him, he was willing to let Thomas feel the holes and test it for authenticity. And he still ascended into heaven with holes. Now this committee process, I feel, is here to test those holes and also to affirm the truth and test what you've put to us, whether it's the truth. So that's how we're going to start, Mr. O'Sullivan. My first question to you, given your access, and your executive appointments without tertiary qualifications, did you benefit from the apartheid system in terms of opportunities because you are white?
So my approach to that is that I didn't.
Sorry?
My response to that would be that I did not approach or benefit from the apartheid system because I'm white. However, I want to qualify that, because if I have to be brutally honest with you, in the initial years when I came in South Africa, and sorry, I'm in a bit of pain. When I first came in South Africa, it might be construed that I did benefit from the apartheid system, because it might be that after 1994, it might be that I would not have received permanent residence. It might be that the rules changed and I would not have qualified for permanent residence. But after democracy took place, I threw myself headlong into trying to help the previously disadvantaged community in South Africa. And I'm still doing it today, by the way. And I don't publish any of this. I don't go to the media and say, look at what I'm doing here. There's an informal settlement near my house in Sandton. There's about 175 people living there, and some of them are school children. And every Christmas and every Easter, we put on parties for the children. In addition to that, they don't have electricity. So I purchased solar panels and put them on the roofs. And the year before last, I donated a very large gas braai facility for them. I communicated with the city of Johannesburg and asked them to put in, and they did put in, 3 toilet blocks and sewage. I managed to get that done for them. And I still, to this very day, communicate on a regular basis with those people, and I've been trying to assist them. But that's just one project. There are other projects as well.
Mr. Sullivan.
Okay, sorry.
No doubt. What you've now added is you're not just heroic, you're not just a hero, you're also a compassionate one.
Yes.
And I'm not disputing that. What I'm dealing with that question is that, let's be logical. When someone like me sits and I look at how is it that you held executive positions without the necessary qualifications, the only answer that's plausible is that the system at the time benefited you because you were white.
Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee. Let's get the news headlines. It's 5:30 with Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. A quick look at those headlines. The TRC cases inquiries heard that political interference to ensure that TRC cases were not investigated or prosecuted originates from an informal agreement made between Old Order and New Order state players brokered between 1998 and 2003. Paul O'Sullivan's told Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee that he lost his ability to speak Afrikaans following a head injury And the AU Commission chairperson says the continent remains concerned about conflicts and instability. All those details and more at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Solomon Mhlangu Drive westbound in Pretoria is a crash before Olympus Drive. The R24 eastbound in Kempton Park, a crash after Barbara Road exit, and Barry Herzog Avenue in Melville has protest action reported near Judith Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound in Pietermaritzburg, queuing towards Market Road, the M7 westbound, queuing towards Belleville Road exit, and a crash on the N3 southbound after Umlaus Road. In Cape Town, on the M5, an incident reported between Klipfontein Road and Krombom Road, causing delays in both sides of the road. Main Road is slow moving through Claremont and Van Riebeeck Road southbound in Kuils River, queuing towards Nooiensfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right to me, we can't cope. There's South Africa playing at the World Cup, but there's also Pirates versus Kaizer Chiefs.
Yeah, and the tickets are officially sold out. That game being on the 28th of February, and it is at FNB Stadium. Demand was very overwhelming with tickets snapped up in record time, both online and at retail outlets. Fans lucky enough to secure seats are urged to arrive early because there's going to be some activations, entertainment and prize giveaways by Chiefs and their sponsors, and supporters without tickets are advised to watch from home with families and friends. Security will be on high alert and gatherings near the stadium will not be permitted. And just talking about some sponsors, following the announcement of Calling Black Label's official partnership with Kaizer Chiefs, the sponsors have explained that there's no conflict of interest with this deal. Just yesterday, the two parties announced a new 5-year deal. The company also sponsors the Calling Black Label Knockout and Calling Cup, and brand director Karen Greenleaf assures that no conflict with this latest deal announcement.
Very, very good question. So the history of Carling Black Label and our journey in soccer started in the early 2000s, where we started the Carling Cup, which was a Soweto derby between Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs. That has evolved into today's Carling Knockout, which supports all 16 clubs in the PSL. Where this opportunity comes from is that we know that soccer fandom doesn't just happen in our tournament period, and that we have an opportunity to make this more always on, really empowering the voice of the champion fan throughout the season and making sure that we recognize and reward those loyal fans.
Elsewhere, Real Madrid have announced that they've officially left the Super League after reaching an agreement with UEFA after Barcelona left earlier this month. This means that no clubs left in the European Super League. In cricket, Proteas batter Ryan Rickleton admitted to peak anxiety levels in a dressing room as they got over the line by the skin of their teeth against Afghanistan in the second match of the ongoing T20 World Cup in India and Sri Lanka. In some dramatic scenes, both sides scored exactly 187 in their 20 overs before unbelievably both hitting 17 runs in the first super over. Still needing to be separated, South Africa put up 23 with Tristan Stubbs and David Miller at the crease. This time they were able to defend it by only 4 runs, and Rickleton, who top scored for his team in the normal overs with 61, says that they were all nervous in the midst of the chaos.
Just anxiety. I think we're standing there, all of us sitting there upstairs, fingers crossed, like, come on guys, just more hope than anything. But yeah, like I said, it was an absolute whirlwind of a game. We were all in it. We rode the emotions, obviously, just like everyone else did. And it was pretty tough, I will say. But yeah, just glad that we got over the line.
Well, Keshav Maharaj was given the burden of defending that score in that second super over, which could still have lost it with that very final ball by Kubaz, which was caught by David Miller attempting another 6. And Rickleton says that it was coach Shukri Conrad who made that call for the off-spinner to have a crack at it.
I actually was unsure. I thought KG or Marco was going to go, but it came from Shukri saying he thinks Kesh should go. And yeah, credit where credit's due. I guess it worked. Came down to the last wire. We tried to change it up. I think bowl slow and wide and try to get them to hit over extra cover for 6 to the big boundary. That would be the thinking, which is probably the most difficult shot to do, I think. So I guess that would have been the plan. yeah, just glad, like I say, glad it came off.
Up next for South Africa, they take on New Zealand on Saturday. The two teams with 100% record in Group D. Meanwhile, after the game, Afghanistan's Rashid Khan said that it was truly an unbelievable match and he still can't believe that they lost that match. Afghanistan came very close to winning it twice, but even from there, they ended up losing, and he was saying that he really feels bad. In motorsport, Lewis Hamilton says that Formula One's new rules have made the sport ridiculously complex and has warned fans that they may struggle to understand it. Now, the 7-time champion was speaking after testing Ferrari's new car in Bahrain. This year's engine split power also almost evenly between petrol and electric energy, meaning that drivers must carefully manage battery use during a lap. As a result, drivers may have to ease off on straights or avoid going flat out at times to save energy, which is one big change to how Formula One cars are driven. On that note, it is a wrap from my side.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental dispute, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This message is brought to you by Eskom, redefining for a better future.
Hey South Africa, want to keep your lights on and save money? Let's use electricity wisely. It's easier than you think. Switch off lights when you leave a room, unplug chargers and appliances, and use energy-saving bulbs. They last longer and use less power. Every little bit helps for your home, your wallet, and our planet.
Let's make it a habit and use electricity wisely. Eskom.
For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program, evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa, to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy Moya, you've got a show coming up 6 to 7, but to set the scene, what is that payoff line from SAA where no one's a stranger, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Certainly, that's how SAA hopes to make South Africans feel, and anyone that travels using the airline. We're going to speak to the company's chief executive around their latest set of results. Of course, these results are yet to be tabled in Parliament, and we haven't got a detailed understanding of what is contained in the full audit report. But we're going to get a sense of the performance of that entity and what it is that entity is looking forward to in the new year. We're also going to have a conversation around the State of the Nation address that takes place tomorrow evening, which means we will not be able to bring South Africans the SAFM market update tomorrow. But what we will do tonight is we will get a sense of what we expect to come out of the State of the Nation address, or what do we hope rather that we hear from President Cyril Ramaphosa. We're also going to have a conversation with the team at Standard Bank, taking a look at the mining sector as we wrap up the mining indaba that was taking place in Cape Town this week. We're going to get a sense of some of the themes and driving factors that were in focus there. Then we've got a conversation with the team at Growth Point. They have broken ground on a near 400 million rand logistics facility in the KZN province. We're going to get a sense of that and what it is that facility will then add to the economy of that province. And then we're going to wrap up the show, as we do on a Wednesday, with an executive conversation. We're going to speak to founder and CEO of a company called Maxwell and Spark. Quite an interesting story, quite an interesting journey there. Before we get to those conversations, conversations, though, a sense of market movements throughout the day. It has been a positive day on the equities front as well as on the commodities front, even though the Brent crude price is now back above $70. Sadly, $70.50 a barrel on that side at the moment. The gold price $5,044 a fine ounce, silver almost $83 a fine ounce, and platinum at $2,101 a fine ounce. Palladium $1,729, but the rand stronger against most major currencies, not against the Australian dollar though, 11 Rand 31 against that, 18 Rand 90 against the euro, back below 19 Rand there, 21.74 against the British pound, and 15 Rand 94 against the US dollar. One Bitcoin is now at $66,300 a Bitcoin, or in Rand terms, 1,057,000, almost half of the price from its all-time highs, just north of 2 million Rand there. So that's quite interesting from a Bitcoin pricing perspective. Quick look at equity markets before we head out. The Nikkei in Tokyo, the biggest gainer in Asian markets, up around 2.2%, but that was from yesterday's gains. That market not trading through today. There is a holiday there. Despite that, the ASX in Sydney's performance today up 1.66%, still not near that performance there. So we'll see how that market comes back when it does come back online. European markets were a mixed bag, but the FTSE in London up almost a full percent. US markets at the moment are in the red, all of them. The S&P rather down about 0.25%. The Nasdaq down 0.2%. Local markets had a great day, despite industrials being down 0.2%. Financials were up almost 0.5%, but resources once again carrying the bulk of the heavy lifting here. They were up 2.48, almost 2.5%. The top 40 up 0.75%. The all share up 0.72%. I have David Shapiro of Sasfin Wealth on markets a little later on. We're going to get a sense of perhaps some of these driving factors and some of these market movements. But that conversation and all the other conversations come to you just after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Right, thanks for that, Jimmy. Yeah, 6 to 7, that comes up. In fact, we are going to do a preview of the prep for SONA tomorrow, coming up next.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
All right, there's still lots of people, as always, expected to wanting to comment on what's happening in Parliament here as well.
Good day, Ashraf. Good day to SA listeners. This is TJ from Eguruleni. I think this one was a missed opportunity for us to find out more from Paul O'Sullivan, because the likes of Malema reacted like lawyers. This ad hoc committee
conference, I knew of his history because he had been involved in this incident that took place at Artpit. So I knew that he wasn't this knight in shining armor that he was portraying himself to be. And when I read between the lines, and I don't...
Missed opportunity, what should they have done? What should they have done differently?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This man, Paul O'Sullivan, must face the music. I think Hoshiman Boris is calling him. He must go to prison. Nothing else. This is Chipan Masema from Mikurleni. Thank you so much.
Okay, what's that monopoly directive? Go to jail, go directly to jail. Do not pass, begin. True?
Shifto from Durban. I don't know if they're allocating enough time. I hope they certainly do for greater interrogation and take the focus on all of the allegations and some of the proof that Sullivan has. But there seems to be initially maybe too much focus, unless they have other plans, on repeatedly going back on his qualifications. And the data is not strictly related to police corruption. Sullivan clearly has to also answer whether he is a rogue asset. But the vindictiveness, the personal agendas to break him seem to be taking more priority on getting to the roots of the corruption. I have no qualm on either way for Sullivan, but I think they're so focused on breaking him and personal agendas losing track of the purpose of the commission and the real nutty out of him.
Okay, Joe, you've certainly got us. You got us thinking. I wonder if others concur with you about just the line of action taken in terms of questioning and considering the time available. We'll chat to Toko Didiza after this.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
So tomorrow this time, goodness man, it will be serious countdown, because you know that the 2026 State of the Nation address will be delivered, well, tomorrow evening, in fact. So what then is the preparation? What goes on behind the scenes? What are the plans? Let's find out more about it with the Speaker of the National Assembly, Speaker Toko Didiza. Much appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse at a time when your pulses must be racing ahead of tomorrow's SONA.
Good evening, Ashraf and the listeners. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. Yeah, I was going to say, how are you? Because I would think that your pulses must be racing. There must be a different sort of energy now with just a day to go.
No. Everything is on plan. Preparations that have gone behind the scenes obviously looks at the fiscal preparation and logistics to make sure that the City Hall is prepared, the place where the journalists will be to take the news for the listeners, as well as the overflow spaces.
Now, interesting you talk about all those things. You know, your role as the Speaker is one thing. When it comes to the logistics of Parliament, as you said, space for the media where people sit, who coordinates all of that?
Actually, we work with Public Works, but also we work with the Justice Cluster, because they also have to ensure that the security logistics are also in place.
How? And then also the issue of, yes, before it was at the Houses of Parliament, now it's at the City Hall. I understand this could well be the last year, right, at City Hall. But let's just talk about that. In terms of space, how much is enough in terms of the space required for the different houses and other invited guests?
Well, usually in terms of the two houses, we've got about 490 members, which includes the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. You then have got the judiciary that is also invited, particularly the heads of courts in the various divisions, and the Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice, who actually form part of the ceremony. You have the speakers of the 9 provinces. You then have former heads of state, former presiding officers. You have got various entities and the institutions that support democracy who also come, and other honored guests that would either be invited by the president or by the presiding officers to be in the house. And most of those would be either constituencies that we work with, coming from non-government organizations, from the religious community, as well as the business community.
What about foreign delegates? I mean, who would be the most high-profile, let's say, African delegate outside of our country, and
usually
another outside Africa as well?
Usually it's all the diplomats. They get invited. They are given the quota for them to actually come to the house. Some of them will be on the overflow if the space in the gallery is not enough.
Let's say with now just over 24 hours to go, what would then be the process between now and then? I mean, take us through that.
The process between now and then, you would notice, particularly those who are in Cape Town, that some of the roads have been closed to allow for the military drills and those who have to do other ceremonial, parts. The journalists have already been in place to look at the spaces where they'll be working in, and also taking some of the, news bits of what is already happening in the precinct, but also around Cape Town. So in the morning, largely there are interviews, and you will have some of the young people who will be there to actually sing as part of the ceremony, and others will be there as the young guards who will be parading closer together with the military.
All of this does cost money. I'll ask you about costs right after this.
Yes, you will ask me about cost, and it's important to appreciate that there are costs involved, but also the necessity of having such an event in our country, which comes once a year, is important.
Okay, we'll get those costs in a moment.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Alcohol drowns our hope and fuels our pain. Our streets are flooded. Our families are breaking. Women and children are not safe. Alcohol kills 100 people in South Africa every day. For more information, visit www.truecostofalcohol.africa. Increase excise tax on alcohol.
BVB's current mission is to stay close to the log leaders and win every match in the second round of the league. Meanwhile, the Carnival Club is eager to reveal their secret plan on match day. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Dortmund versus FSV Mainz on Friday, 13 February at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
We continue our conversation ahead of SONA tomorrow and the expectancy around that. Certainly looking forward to that. I think just about every one of us. And I think the logical one is to compare notes between what was said last year and this year. I'm not going to put that to Toko Didiza, the Speaker of the National Assembly, but I want to ask you about the cost of running SONA.
Well, for this year, we've earmarked about 7 million to actually ensure that all the preparations and what is needed to provide for this SONA is in place. But I think it's important, Ashraf, while the issue of expenditure is indeed important for our society, what is also important, which we must not lose sight of, was what the moment is about, because this is another way in which the head of state and government accounts to the country about what was said last year, how far has government gone in delivering on those commitments that they've made. If there had been challenges, what are those challenges? But also, what is the government outlook on what is happening in our nation, in our continent, and globally, and how it sees itself, addressing some of those issues. It allows them an opportunity after the presentation by the president for parliamentarians in a 2-day engagement where they will make their own reflection on what the president would have said. And for parliament, that is the way in which we are actually holding the executive to account in terms of our oversight, because we also need to say, this is what was said, how far have you gone on it?
Let's then talk about the program itself tomorrow. Do I take it, A, that you set the agenda as the speaker, and what is that program?
Tomorrow the president will deliver the State of the Nation address at 7 p.m. And that's all what's happening in tomorrow, beyond the festivities, obviously, that happen during the day. But the important part is the delivery of the State of the Nation address by the head of state.
Mm-hmm. And of course, there's an opening and there's some ceremonial acts that take place. How much of that, again, is coordinated by yourself?
Well, in terms of the others, as I said, Parliament doesn't work alone in terms of what also happened in the precinct. It will be the military, there will be the military drill. The police would also do their work in terms of ensuring public order and ensuring that there is security of the precinct. So they'll be doing part of that work themselves. Public works, as I say, they are responsible for the delivery of infrastructure of what will be used during SONA.
And I mean, just lastly, what for you would be a successful SONA? And I say that because we go back to apartheid South Africa, and on that significant day, FW de Klerk, then the president or prime minister, I think it may have been called, of South Africa at the time, announcing the unbanning of different political parties and then the imminent release of Nelson Mandela and many others. Then you've had others with the very first sitting of parliament with Nelson Mandela as the head of the democracy. But we've had others. We've had disrupted SONAs as well, right? And you know that. What for you, therefore, as a speaker, would be what you would consider a successful SONA, a green tick to say a job well done?
For me, it would be, obviously, the decorum will be important, but the message, it will be critical. That it is done in a manner that all of us as South Africans will be proud that we listen to the head of state, we've taken in what he says, we can then engage with it.
And I said lastly, but here's the lastly one. There is a sense that, many people are very interested in the SONA, but there's also a sense that many people are disinterested, switched off. I mean, as I talk to you, there's a huge water crisis in the Gauteng, in Joburg area and Pretoria. People are protesting in the streets, and for many people it's like, we don't care what the president says, we really want to know what local council says. I know it's a slightly different question, but the point I want to make to you, therefore, in your role, how do you ensure that the public are actually switched on, that they don't miss the SONA for all the important reasons we know they are?
For me, I think the importance of the SONA, particularly at the level at which the head of state is talking to us as citizens, it's also about how he addresses these issues that are impacting the citizens on a daily basis. As you say, the issue of water in a number of areas in our country being the challenge, but also the inclement weather that has been impacting on our country in this year and in the later years, where you have had floods and impacting negatively on citizens. Again, the citizens would want to hear what is the head of state saying about what government will do, working with us, obviously, in ensuring that we mitigate some of this challenge of climate change that brings inclement weather, where you'll have flood in the north, and in the south and eastern parts, you have got serious drought, which are impacting our agricultural sector. For instance, what is it that our head of state and government going to say? So that should make all of us be interested in what the message will be for us as citizens.
Absolutely. And I mean, just the last thing to punctuate an important point, that this year SONA coincides with the 30 years of the adoption of the Constitution, which came after 1994, as we know, right? In that light, again, you would want, from your position as Speaker, to highlight the critical importance of us upholding the Constitution, but also to be switched on with regard to what is the Constitution. I think there's been this campaign about Know Your Constitution, right?
I think this year, as you say, Ashraf, offers us an important opportunity as a country to reflect on the 30-year journey of our Constitution. How has this Constitution enabled us as a country to move away from the past that all of us would want to actually see happening? How has it created opportunities for our citizens to make sure that they enjoy their rights as human beings, but they've got responsibilities too to each other? How do we actually ensure that this Constitution remains the supreme law of our land, to which all of us are equal before the law? And I think this is an opportunity not just for tomorrow's State of the Nation, for the year-long, program where as citizens and as part of giving civic education, we really interface with the various clauses of our Constitution, where we can also say if there is a need for strengthening it, what is the better way of doing so?
Okay, let's leave it at that. Parliamentary Speaker Joko Didiza, appreciate your time. Best wishes for tomorrow. All I can say is I'll be watching you. Probably the same with the President as well. Thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse. Time now for the news at 6 with Greg.
Thank you again, Ashraf. You get home safely. Latest from the TRC inquiry and concern over conflicts and instability in Africa. Good evening. The TRC